Swim Things in Blue Springs, your one-stop shop for all things swim. Pools, spas, patio furniture, swimwear, and accessories. Visit them in Blue Springs or at www.swimthings.com.
I know I learned that I inspired people that I did not even know when I wasn't even talking to. So it's important to wear that badge of honor proudly. Your accomplishments, wear them proudly. Let people see, how sharp, how hard you work, how serious you can get, how dedicated you can be, how disciplined you
Welcome, everybody, to this episode of The Journey. I know you're going to be very excited to join our chat with our special guest today. Now, everybody knows about the recent history of Black swimmers, including the accomplishments of Simone Manuel, Cullen Jones, Maritz Correia, and more, especially at the Olympic Games. But our guest today, Fred Evans, was blazing trails for us back in the 1960s and 1970s as the first Black swimmer to win an NCAA swimming national title. Not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row. And it's my distinct honor to welcome Fred Evans to the show. Fred, it is so good to have you here.
Jeff, it's a pleasure and an honor. I mean, I know I must be getting older when the younger people say trailblazer.
It's a good distinction to have, Fred. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I concur. I told you I feel blessed and honored. Thank you so much.
Well, I think it's pretty safe to say that the trail that even I followed in my swimming career and the trail that the likes of Simone, Manuel, and others are continuing to push forward was started by you more than 40 years ago. Now, I'm not trying to make you feel old, but how does it make you feel that to know that what you accomplish as a swimmer is in some silent way helping the current generation of Black swimmers?
I'm enamored, awed, happy, blessed. Certainly when I was going through that, wasn't anywhere in my head. But as I continue to grow in the sport and continue to grow older, but not old, I get people telling me things like that while I'm alive. And that's very special because sometimes when you get into my age group and you go to funerals, I wonder if the people who said things at the church actually said it to that person before they died. And I feel like this is just yet another blessing and another beautiful thing.
Well, I first heard your name when I was a college freshman because someone had told me at the time that you had been the first Black swimmer to win an NCAA title, coincidentally in the 100 breast, which is also my event. And I just don't think many people at the time, if any, knew your name in the mid 90s. And that's just a big travesty. At the time, after you had, left being a competitive swimmer in the 80s, 90s, and even 2000s, how did it feel to just kind of go quietly about your way, knowing what you did, just knowing that, you did this and that was it?
See, it wasn't just it. And I'm glad you bring this up. I wanted, after I graduated undergrad and grad school at college, my goal was to go back to DC and go to law school. But like you may hear in my voice, I'm spiritually motivated. So my head coach, William Adams, at Chicago State, was fired. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And he also coached the age group program. And so the parents in the age group program asked me to coach. And I said, cool. It's May. What's April? So I'll be here till July, go back to DC. I'll be out. 19 years later, I was still coaching. And we had a diverse team. It wasn't all Caucasian, African American, Latino, Latinas. I mean, it was really a diverse program, and we had that. So I was always in, but it was about them at that time, not me. And it was a privilege. I had no idea how much of a privilege it was. I was just like, well, now it's your job. Now you have to be responsible from beginning to end. Make a plan and start implementing. First there, last to go. It was my journey for a long time, let alone the fact that I was an athletic director at one of the local junior colleges. During that tenure, I started my first business with rest in peace, Dr. Frank O. Block, while I was in grad school, called the Motivational Training Program. So we had published in Peak Performance in Sports Psychology in the early 80s. I actually spoke at the World Sports Psychology Congress while I only had a master's. So, I mean, I've been privileged. And talk about travel. I don't think anybody can talk about it better than you. You know what it's like once you get onto that certain level. You've gone all over the place. So it's a beautiful thing, Jeff. I hope in some small way I answered your question.
Since you were the one to break the barrier by being the first Black American swimmer to win a national title, what sort of feelings do you get when swimmers like Simone Manuel or Cullen Jones continue down this trail that you blazed?
I'm loving it, girl. It's so much fun to see. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh. There was a time where I tried to put together a group. Chris Silva, rest in peace. The woman from Harvard. She's going to be mad that I can't think of her name right now. But she scored at Division Ones. Myself and another guy from Detroit to try and create some synergy around the accomplishments all three of us had. And I've always wanted to see African Americans grow in this sport. But maybe 10 or 15 years ago, I wrote a letter to, is it Chuck Weiglis? Is that right?
Yeah, Chuck Wilgus. Yeah.
Wilgus, about diversity and at the board level, not programmatically. And unfortunately, nothing moved. I see that it has become more diverse with women now. But I thought that would have a larger impact, especially when I think of USA Swimming, not only the actual swimming, but the business of insurance. And I thought it would help. I saw them make moves in diversity. I saw them set up programs, but I thought it should be at a higher level also.
Tell us what you remember about that history-making win at the 1975's NAIA championships when you won the 100 breast to become the first Black swimmer to win a national title.
I get this question a lot. And really, I wanted to make sure I didn't lose. So I felt great that I didn't. And I called second, not winning. When everybody gets a chance to go to the party, you make All-American in the top 12. So, it's a beautiful thing. But to be first, I tell you a funny, Molly, and I'm glad you asked that question. Now, I'm only 5'9", but I raced the Israeli Olympian, and I raced somebody else. They were all 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". So when I stood on the first place stand, at the top, you could still see their heads above mine because they were that much taller than me. So that was a funny experience. Matter of fact, I like telling that story.
When did you become aware of the implications historically of that swim?
Well, there happened to be a gentleman by the name of Buzz, rest in peace. I'm not going to remember his last name, but I went up to the stands to say hello to some of the parents. And he pulled me to the side and he told me he knew my coach, Jane Stafford, who really, I speak volumes about her as well. But he said, I worked with their coach before. I'm down in the Hall of Fame, and no one's ever done anything like you. And I was like what? And that was to be, at that time, I think they used the word Negro, um, to win a national championship. And I kind of was like, that can't be true. I can't be the first one. That's impossible. It's like 1975. I'm thinking that's late in life, but it's not far removed from civil rights. So I'm proud. I'm honored. And it went over my head basically because I couldn't believe it. And I'm just like, maybe he just doesn't know. But apparently it was true. So it felt good.
Yeah, I've had the same kind of moment too when I did some barrier breaking swim, and it was like you just assume it happened, it already happened, and that you just don't know how to process it when it's you that made that happen. So I totally get that.
Yes, I actually felt your spirit when you said that. And I know you were going inside your head, really, really, really. So now I applaud your accomplishments. Quite stellar resume. You could talk about yourself on one of these shows.
It's not about me. It's not about me.
But
so when you made this history-making swim, you were swimming for Chicago State, which the next year had moved up to the NCAA Division II ranks, which is I wouldn't say more difficult, but the swimming is faster.
absolutely.
And so despite all that, you still won the 100 breast. I mean, how did your mindset change as a team moved from a different division to allow this to happen to win that second year?
Well, I like you. Maybe I don't know this part about you, but in high school, I went to the senior nationals. So I already understood another level. What were they called back then? AAU?
Yeah, AAU.
AAU, Cincinnati Pepsi Marlins. I will never forget that, my first one. And I was also asked or told that the janitorial staff enters over there when I went to that meet. They didn't know I was swimming. So I'm already kind of like understood that world. So I didn't think any differently than, what is my favorite thing? I don't want to lose. And I would go from there to Division Ones to indoors. So I had 1 year, I had four national meets. So I was still on a journey.
All it was just don't lose.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking forward to the time when I got a chance to swim against Chris Wu. Back then, I think he went 55 plus. And we went to Hawaii 1 year to train, and for 3 weeks. And I did have a chance to swim long course against him. All I wanted to make sure is that he created no distance further than they already had. And once I found out his split, once I found out my split, I was like, yes, baby. So, I mean, it was fun. It was fun. I mean, you know what it's like to be in the moment, to be ready. I'm shaking my arms now. Get ready, getting your body, your mind ready to compete. Because you're like tunnel, well, at least I was. I was tunnel vision. So my goal was to make one commitment the entire race that I was going to execute. And I think that was a big help because it kept me from getting distracted. Maybe I have adult ADD, HD, I don't know. But, it really helped. So I don't know how you felt when you competed, but I can tell you when I competed, I was in a zone.
Yeah, it's pretty much the same way for me too. It's not easy, but yeah, you make it happen. I mean, talk about this.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, I was just wanted to say this tunnel vision. It's just very interesting. You talk about being in this tunnel vision. Every swimmer has that. Everybody just, you think it's just swim in your lane. That's all you want to do. And try not to worry about the people around you. Very hard to do for somebody like you in the mid 70s when civil rights was going on. Very strong movement there. Opportunities for Black swimmers were not as available as they are today. You're one of, if not the only, Black swimmer at these championship meets. I mean, how do you handle being the only one and putting in that tunnel vision? I can't imagine how you could do that.
Well, I was blessed. Now remember, I was the only African American male at USA Nationals, the only one at Division Ones. But at Division Twos, there was a teammate of mine by the name of Johnny Vito, who was the Olympian from Nigeria. There was also 3 divers, Henry Roby, Michael Flemister, Eric Blackman. There was, and then everybody else was Caucasian. And my coach was Black. So I didn't feel alone at that time. I mean, even when I went to the Nationals, my coach, one of my coaches, Charlie Hodgkinson, I don't know if you're familiar with that name, University of Miami, back in the days of what's the famous British breaststroke? The one that beat Brian Joe.
Oh yeah, David Wilkie.
Yeah. They said go meet David Wilkie. Now, I think I'm 17 or 18 years old. Can you imagine going to go meet the world record holder?
It's crazy. It's a crazy feeling.
It was surreal. Then I was like, well, let's see if he can hang with me on this, or I can hang with him on that. You start testing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I wanted to know. I wanted to know what they were doing, what I need to do differently to be even better. I wanted to. I tried to chase them down, but you know what it's like in this country. You're either first, second, or third in the world, pretty much. You can't go to the Olympics unless you're 1, 2, or 3, especially in our stroke.
You had probably felt that pressure going back to your early days as a swimmer in Washington, D.C. Now, in the 1960s, most pools weren't open to Black swimmers. So how were you able to thrive in the sport at the time?
So I've got to do the math. 56, 66, 68. It was at a outdoor public swimming pool. And it was integrated. And one of my brother's friend's mom told my mom there was such thing as a swim team. Now, I'm in the 7th going into the 8th grade, or I might be in the 8th grade, one of the two. Those 2 years of my life, I went to an all-boys school. The swim team had girls. I was in. I was in. So it was beautiful. It was beautiful. The coach, I remember, she said, get over there and do that. And they were swimming the length of the pool. I'm like, you got to swim over the deep end too? I was still nervous. I didn't really know how to swim that well. I was just trying to figure it out. I didn't know that I was figuring it out until I was maybe 14 or 15, which would put me into the early 70s. But it was always about chasing who was faster. It was never anything more than, and then go sit back and talk with my friends. Get ready for my next event. You have no idea, back in those days, they had this thing called clerk of the course. And the place where the athletes had to all go sit down in a chair at the right number they were listed on the program so they could be seated. And I always wanted to be in the last group because that was the fastest group. And then once I finally got there, wait a second, I want the middle lane. I got greedy, but it worked. And I got faster. So, you know, it was fun. I mean, I'm not thinking anything adverse. I have heard people tell their children, how could you let that nigger beat you? Or nigger. They were speaking properly. But I have heard that. You know, I mean, I felt sorry for the kid.
Did any of that mentality or drive change at all when you moved up to Chicago?
No. I mean, it was pervasive through the 80s. The kids would talk to me about when they go into the locker room, how nasty some of the other children would be. It was our reality. You know, it was something we dealt with all the time. Nowadays, because of social media, it's more, it's hidden less. The social media has been like one of the best things I've ever seen to help with racism. I mean, and some people don't even know they're racist. And they're not doing it intentionally. They've just been privileged not to have to worry about it. So, no, it's just our walk. It was just our walk. Excuse me, love. Adjust myself.
Yeah, it's really interesting how you even through all of this conversation about, you know, going through this with the environment around you, nothing ever wavered. You just wanted to be the best you could be. And I mean, I don't think anybody watching this is going to fault you for that, because it can weigh you down when you know what's out there, when people are just saying these things to you that could, I mean, a lesser person would have said, well, maybe there isn't any use for me in this sport. Maybe I should leave. And yet you persevered, and all the way through college. And did you go to the Olympic trials in 1976?
I had an accident with my hand, tore off the ends of my fingers. That put me out of contention. I couldn't qualify because I couldn't take the pressure on my hand. But later that following year, I did pretty well too.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure you have had a good chance, because at the time you were top 3, 4 in the country in the 100 breaststroke. Yeah, top 4. So I mean, the chance was there, and I know, I mean, everybody's had this in their lives. You've had that opportunity to just step up on the blocks and do everything you can, but there's something that just gets in the way, and I feel in my heart, because I've had that too, and I'm sure Molly has as well. We all have. Every athlete has had that. It really is tough. But that throughout that whole process. And you had mentioned something about this after you won your first national title, about someone coming up to you and saying, did you realize such and such? What was the media attention like surrounding you and other Black swimmers at the time?
Wow, that's another interesting question. Very little. A lot on my campus, you know, there was this thing that the athletes had where, you know, if you see All-American, you have to bow. Or we bow to each other. And so the one guy that told me was Melvin Bland. I never will forget it. I was a freshman. He was a sophomore or a junior. He said, now, I heard you pretty good, but you know, when you're here, you have to bow to All-American. What? What? So I did. You know, I didn't feel awful. I just felt like, you know, junior talking to a freshman. You know, that stuff happens. Don't get a thin skin over that. And so my freshman year, when I came back, he was the first one to bow to me. So it was fun, but the coverage was primarily on campus. I got a resolution from the state of Illinois. I got some attention from a local newspaper, but you know, it wasn't like you guys nowadays. You're beasts. You're beasts. And I get called. I was cut up and that whole 9 yards. But you guys are beasts now. I'm looking at you. You got this whole program going. Your writing accomplishments, your speaking accomplishments. I'm happy as. May I have permission to speak freely?
Please.
I'm happy as hell. I'm proud of you guys. What do you think that I would be like? I wish that were. No, I don't even do that. I don't even do that. It's you guys, and keep kicking some booty.
Well, again, it's you think you've done nothing, and I look at myself and I think I've done nothing. And when you go down the line, 20 years from now, people like Cullen Jones and Simone, and they'll think, yes, I've done something, but in the scheme of things, it's nothing. Everybody after them will think, wow, you did something really big. So I think it's all perspective. It really does go into perspective, Fred.
Well, I don't minimize my blessing, to be able to not lash out because you're called to work, to keep your focus because somebody says they're going to kick your ass. Yes, we are special, not average, not average. We're not.
So all this talk we've had with you about your swimming career, I mean, actually, I think it pales in comparison to what you did after that, the 20 years after that, being a coach in Chicago, for lack of a better term, integrating swimming in Chicago, getting more minorities into the pool and turning out to be not just great swimmers, but great people in life. And
absolutely,
I think that's probably in terms of a legacy. I think, to me, if I were to look back on the life of Fred Evans, I think that's something to be applauded, because that's something about how you're giving back to the sport and how you can apply yourself. And like you said, you didn't plan on doing this, but every year, how did you manage to continue to build that program in Chicago to the point where you are now, I mean, you've told me this before, is like you feel like you're like the mayor in your neighborhood because you're just so popular for what you've done.
Yeah, they made me feel that way. But remember, that swimming world is not that big. But no, I'm just teasing you. But as I get older, I have a saying that I developed from one of my friends. They come to swim, but they learn to live.
Yep, very true.
Yeah.
So like Jeff was saying earlier, there are now generations of swimmers from Chicago that probably would not be where they are today, or the swimmers they are today, if not for your hard work and dedication to them. So thank you on behalf of them. How has your notoriety, for lack of a better word, from your history-making accomplishments helped you throughout your life?
They're nothing but stepping stones. I mean, I ended up eventually owning my own business by myself. And one thing is for sure, once you have that kind of dedication, time management, goal setting, skill set, it's applicable every place. Every job I've had, I've never done before. So I would say the notoriety helps because it makes for an interesting conversation. But really, people want to know what you can do. Does this gray matter in between your ears? And so, being an African American male, we always, when we walk into a room, we have to prove ourselves. Now, I don't know if you can grasp that thought, but imagine being the only girl in a room full of boys. The only girl in a room full of boys. You know what it's like? Everybody and their mama looking at you, right? Right? Not only looking at you, they trying to size you up. She's smart. She's definitely pretty. So no, every time. So I guess I was prepared because I went through and had to be so focused. Like it's some of the jobs I've had. I'm double degreed, I'm published, well-spoken. Um, I have leadership skills. But if you didn't see my face and you read my resume, you would go, oh, cool, let's check this guy. And I left out first African-American collegiate national champion. I still think I would get interviews. But that accomplishment means such a high level of discipline that at the time I didn't know, but it was serious. It's a high level, high level. I was wondering, when you what did you swim? I forget, Molly.
I was a breaststroker as well.
All right. Well, in college, every Saturday, I had to kick 5,000 yards.
No, it hurts thinking about that.
When I was in high school, my coach said, pull a mile, kick a mile, swim a mile. Because we barely had lane ropes. Matter of fact, sometimes we would string together milk cartons, or back then it was juice. Fill them up, and just so you could kind of like stay in your lane. But yeah. Wow, I can't believe I'm telling that story. Can you imagine when I was coming along, goggles were not popular. So I would swim with one eye open and one eye closed. So when I left practice, especially in the summertime, because I like riding my bike, I could see out the other eye because they got red. You never went through that experience, did you? Chlorine eyes?
Maybe as a little kid in my backyard, but not swimming.
Yeah. So you've never swum a race without goggles?
No.
Right?
No. Maybe if they fell off, but I got through.
Yeah. I never swam one with them.
Crazy to think about that.
Isn't it? I look at my grandchildren and I go, I have one that's now 2 years old. And I wonder if she's really going to know what books are. Because everything's on a tablet. She's going to learn how to swipe like it's not funny.
How much work do you have to do these days to convince Black swimmers in Chicago that they should become swimmers instead of playing basketball or football?
If I was coaching again right now, I said, exactly. You didn't make the team. You didn't make the team. You didn't make the team. Come on with me. You can make this team. I can teach you. Because you're gonna be a beast. And I know I can make beasts. So I'm not confused by that. We just need beastly bodies. I mean, when you think about Simone, do you know how tall and how heavy she is? Emmanuel? Yeah. How tall are you?
I'm 5'5".
How tall is she?
Oh, Simone's about 6 feet. Yeah.
Yes. And I have a daughter, Asian. She's 5'10" and $175, beastly. I would hate to meet her going into the alley. So no. Yeah. There's some beastly kids out there.
Yeah, you just have to find them, and I think that's something that USA Swimming is trying to do. But I know you had talked about, you had sent a letter to the board of directors, you had some thoughts, but I guess I want to give you that opportunity right now to just look in the camera and give your thoughts to what USA Swimming could do to bring more of those beasts, those minority swimmers that you've seen on the streets that don't make the basketball, football team. How can they get them into the pool?
Well, they got to be convinced, I think, at the board level and not make it programmatic. I mean, I realize USA Swimming is an insurance company that happens to have swimming. And when you make those kinds of decisions, diversity at that level can impact the bottom. or the lesser level, the programmatic levels, the recruiting levels, because it becomes pervasive. You just gave somebody an opportunity to help USA Swimming become even more national, become known in the Black community, to become known that it's not just the privileged to be. I mean, I can't speak enough, and I'm not knocking what they're trying to do. They really are, but it's not at a high enough level. And I hope you hear me, USA Swim.
You know, I love your enthusiasm and I love your vibe that you give off. What do you say would be your life motto?
They come to swim, they learn to live.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's really cool. I really, it's many years away, but you know, I think that's the perfect thing to put on your gravestone. They came to swim, they learned to live.
Yeah,
I think
that would be,
that's great.
that would be, yeah. Thank you so very much. That was a beautiful question you asked me.
Something else I didn't even bring up is that in 1983 you were honored with induction into the International Swimming Hall of Fame. I mean, that's talk about. I mean, Olympic medals are great, but to be in a Hall of Fame is really, really special. And I mean, what does it feel like to be a Hall of Famer?
Well, it's a great lead in. You know, sometimes I don't talk about that enough because I know I wasn't the first in the world, right? And you
Right.
know, when you're competing at that level, that's what you want to be, right? And so part of me goes, I was just the first African American, and I put the word "just" there, and it's horrible that I do that. It's horrible. It's horrible that you do it to yourself because somebody else could say, "There's Jeff." You inspire people that you don't even know. I know. I learned that I inspired people that I did not even know when I wasn't even talking to. So it's important to wear that badge of honor proudly. Your accomplishments, wear them proudly. Let people see, you know, how sharp, how hard you work, how serious you can get, how dedicated you can be, how disciplined you are. You know, so, Jeff, so you mean to tell me out of the whole world, let's just use the United States, out of entirely everybody in the United States, you were if it was only 100 people, 97 of them couldn't beat you. Instead of, oh, well, he got me and he got me. But 97. In my senior year of college, I lost the NCAAs. I think I got sick. I was sick. I had a temperature, that whole 9 yards. But I felt horrible. I I felt so horrible that I watched the person pass me at the last second. It was just like surreal. So I went home. I came back home. I went over to my buddy's house with his uncles. And he says, you know, this guy can swim. What do you mean he can swim? Man, he just came back from the Nationals. Here's my demeanor. Yes, sir. He got second or third. Yes, sir. Why is his head down? And he taught me. So you realize your head is down. How many people swim? 100? Thousands? Yes. So out of all of them people, right now, somebody else beat you and you beat the other 98. That changed my outlook. It changed my outlook so that you young people that make it into that world of swimming, and you aspire to score. You're at the dance, you're at the party. You qualify for the meet, you're at the dance, you're at the party. Go and have some fun.
I think it's yeah. I think there's a dichotomy to that you can enjoy, and I think you're trying to bring it across is yes, don't like the fact that that one person beat you, but appreciate that you beat the other 98 as well, and it's very hard to do in the moment. I mean, I didn't get
Yes.
I didn't get to that place where you were until I was in my 30s. I just agonizing over those losses and not thinking, hey, I got to go to NCAAs, and there are hundreds of thousands of people out there that never even got that opportunity. But you don't think about that in the moment. And I think it does help you put perspective on how good of a swimmer you are, how good of an athlete you are. And it translates it to the real world, I think. And I think that's why some athletes may even have a little trouble with that transition. But I know that was actually part of your work for a while.
Yeah, well, when I started doing writing, and I started delving into the area of sports psychology. I can't say I'm a sports psychologist because I don't have a PhD. But when we started writing, there was a certain mindset that one of my professors saw. And he said, you know what? We should write together. Okay. I am graduating from college. And a professor tells me, there's a thing called the graduate assistant. At the time, I didn't know what that was. They said, we got a spot. Why don't you apply for it? They said, just come to the office. They sat me down. They said, can you do this, this, and this? I said, yes. What time? This time, and that time. I said, yes. And then I got the job. And by doing that and taking my graduate courses and coaching and speaking, I got really, they saw that the way you think, the way I think, there's something there. There's something there. And we tried to translate it into writing and a skill set, relaxation, visualization, goal set. I mean, all of those elements are soft, but hard skills. And so it's important. It's very, very important. I'm sorry that I continue to run off the mouth, but Jeff, you bring up some thoughts in my head of things we've done and how we do them and what we have both done in our lives and still thriving, trying to thrive. It's a beautiful thing. It's really a beautiful.
Is. You're definitely right, and I'm going to speak for everybody who has watched and everybody who is, and I'm sure I'm speaking for Molly as well. This has just been a thrill to kind of absorb some of this wisdom and learn more about your life, because like you have said, be inspired. I'm inspired by your life, and I want to put that into practice. And I can't quantify how great it has been to meet you, to learn from you, and to talk to you today. And it's just been a joy. Thank you so much.
Oh, I felt your spirit, and it's my pleasure and honor. Okay, I mean, I'm pleased that I have a story to tell, and even more, somebody to listen. So, but no, you're more than welcome. More than welcome, Molly. That's right, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You be blessed, girl. You still hang out there, do your thing, and be a beast.
I will. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you, everybody, for watching the show today. And like you've learned from Fred, it's not just about the destination, it's about the journey.
Well said. Well said.